Hey everybody, CipherCynical here, and before we start the story time video, I have a couple things to say. First off, I have a new Halloween skin, but I don't really think you guys care. Second off, at the time of recording this, it is my birthday, October 12th. But again, I actually don't think you guys really care. And the final thing is please like and subscribe. It really helps my channel out, and you can always unsubscribe if you don't like my content. But anyways, let's get into the story. Okay, so it's that time of the year where everything starts to get spooky. You know that time of the year. It's Halloween time, baby. So basically, I was just sitting in my evil lair and I was like, what video should I make? What type of video should I make for Halloween? And I was like, let's make a ghost story video. And I was like, this is genius. I need to be a scientist. Well, I already am, but anyways, so I went into my brain and I was like, where are some ghost stories? And I plied a ghost story out of my brain that I just barely remembered. So yeah, guys, I'll be telling you a ghost story today. Alright, so first off, this ghost story takes place at my old house. I moved out of my old house in June of 2019, and I didn't really care. I mean, the house was relatively small, and it wasn't, like, gigantic. It had 2 floors, it had an attic, but it was just a relatively small house. Basically, the story takes place all the way back in July of 2018, a full year before I moved out of that house. And I never really experienced any ghost experiences in the house. But the house just felt relatively creepy to me. I felt a presence in it. I don't know why, I just felt a certain presence. And before you guys ask in the comments, the house was not old either. It was around like 17 years old. It was made in around 2001. So it wasn't the oldest house, but it wasn't the newest house either. And by the way, for you guys to relatively understand this ghost story, you need to understand the sort of layout of the house, because the house was sort of confusing. So, like I said, the story took place in July of 2018. So, basically, the story takes place in my room. Now, my room was probably one of the weirdest rooms in the house, because it wasn't like a square shape like a normal room would be. It was a square shape, but in one of the corners there was a nook that was just like going out. So it wasn't basically like the most normal looking room. I'll make a diagram of the room and the area surrounding of the room because it's just too confusing to understand, but the most important things you need to understand to know this story is that my bed was facing the wall that was sort of more northern, and there was a closet on that wall, and to the right of that closet there was a door that led to the hallway, and when you left that door, immediately to your left was the parents' room, and then to your right you would take another right and it would take you down to the stairway. And not in the diagram, farther down the hallway there was just a bathroom and a guest room, which isn't very important to the story, but maybe is later on. But anyways, I'll be showing that diagram throughout the video. But anyways, let's get into the story. So this takes place at around 10 p.m. to 11 p.m. between that time. So basically I was just going to bed. The lights were off in the hallway, and my mom was in the parents' room, and her TV was on, the lights were on. So I was just basically about to go to bed. Then my cat Justin jumped up on my bed and snuggled up next to me, and he will be more important later on in the story. So Justin sort of was attached to me. He loves me. So he usually just jumped up to my bed and he would just snuggle up next to me and I would pet him. So I would just look at him and pet him, and he would be usually to my left, so he was against the wall. And always when I was petting Justin, to the corner of my eye I could always see the hallway. Basically, I'm just petting Justin, I'm just petting him, and then in the corner of my eye, I just see something. And it definitely wasn't human. Whatever the figure was, just went across the hallway into my parents' room. And it looked like it came from either the stairway or the far end of the hallway. And I'll remember this from the best of my ability, but to describe the figure, it was definitely ghostly. And basically, it had no body, and there was sort of this like gray sheet. It was like a gray sheet, and it was sort of like you could look through it, and the gray sheet was like kind of like withered and stuff. And basically, it looked like the invisibility cloak from Harry Potter, but you could see it, and it was sort of gray. But there wasn't a head. It was a skeleton face. So basically, it was a cloak, a gray cloak, without any legs, without any arms. It was just a plain gray cloak, and a skeleton as a face. It was basically a skeleton as a face. And from what I remembered, the skeleton had fucking hair. It had hair. The hair wasn't touching its head, though. It wasn't touching the skull. It was basically just like gray, long gray hair that was sort of just like moving. I'll try to draw it or like put it in Google Images, but it was weird. So whatever this ghost was, it was definitely a lady ghost. Basically, I saw this from the corner of my eye. The lady ghost basically just slid its way into my parents' room, and it looked like it came from the far right side of the hallway or the staircase, like I said. And all of this like took place in under like 2 seconds. It was quick. And yeah, I saw it. Now, this could have just been my imagination. It could have been a hallucination. But remember when I said Justin would be more important to the story later on? Well, get this. Justin just looked up at the hallway, and he looked super terrified, and he just sprinted his way to the hallway into my parents' room. He looked terrified. And that's when I realized, oh shit, that wasn't just me who saw that. Justin saw it. And I was terrified. And by the way, this wasn't like far away from me. This was probably around like 50 feet away from me, which is horrifying. And I have a couple theories of what this might be. Now, my first theory is this. Remember when I said that the ghost most likely came from the far end of the hallway? Well, at that far end of the really far end of the hallway, exactly a floor below that is an entrance to the garage. And this entrance to the garage is actually pretty creepy. So let me explain why this garage door was so creepy. Basically, ever since we moved in, I had this one cat, and his name was Norman. Now, like almost every single night, Norman would walk up to that garage door, and he would just look up at it and just meow at it for almost hours at a time. And I'm not gonna lie, this kind of scared me and my parents a bit. Now, my theory is that Norman was looking up at the far end of the hallway because above that floor, there's a ghost there. And that ghost is just camping right there. And maybe that night when I saw the ghost move by, it came from the far end of the hallway above the garage door where Norman was meowing at. And the ghost probably just came from the far end of the hallway. And that Norman was meowing at the floor above at the ghost, because you all know that cats can see ghosts. And my second theory is that it was either my mom passing by, or it was just me hallucinating, or it was just my imagination. Now, this theory is kind of weird because I never saw my mom leave the room as opposing to me seeing her, quote unquote, her, go into the room. So I have my doubts about this theory. But that concludes my story. If you have any questions, put them in the comments. And yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed this spooky story, and later.